The Last Night of Rothenburg. Chapter 10. The Seed. Wilhelm awoke to a scream. It tore through the quiet like metal dragged across stone. He sat bolt upright, heart jackhammering in his chest, the air too still, too perfect. A dream? Maybe. But the knot in his gut said otherwise. He dressed fast, shirt, belt, boots, no armor, no sword. Those had been taken the day before when they arrived, offered up at the gate with a polite assurance they'd be returned after screening. He slipped the pouch of Feldhof seeds into his shirt pocket. One of the last things he owned that still felt like it came from a world that hadn't rotted. He crossed the room and tried the door. Locked. From the outside, he slammed his palm against it. "Isolde!" No answer, no footsteps, no guards coming to check. Just stillness. A silence that stank of something worse than danger, something planned. He crossed to the small window and pressed his forehead to the pane. Too narrow to escape. Just wide enough to see the towers rising in the distance, like spines from the earth. Their walkways glowed with lantern light swaying, movement across every terrace, shovels, buckets, people toiling under torchlight. In the middle of the night, why? The clouds hung low and bloated, catching the flickering light and casting it back with a sickly hue. A copper halo crowned the towers, painting the mist a greasy orange. He turned away, chest tight. Had he imagined the scream? Maybe, maybe not. But the locked door wasn't a dream, that was real, real enough to make his skin crawl. The door opened. 3 of them, grey tunics, gloves, blank faces like carved wax. One held a length of cloth, another had iron shackles. The third just looked at Wilhelm like a man might study a chicken before the axe. He backed away. "Where is she?" They didn't answer. He swung first, broke a jaw. The crack was satisfying but short-lived. The other 2 were on him in a blink. The cloth jammed between his teeth. Rope bit into his wrists. He bucked and kicked, but they moved like men who'd done this before. They dragged him from the room. Last night he'd wept into a bowl of soup. That should have been the clue. No man cries over carrots unless he's starving in places deeper than the belly. He'd let himself believe, just for a moment, that maybe this was the end of the suffering. That maybe the world hadn't died. And now? He'd die with the taste of that lie still warm on his tongue. The corridor outside wasn't the one he remembered. This one was long and sunken, lit by weak torches and lined with identical doors. Each had a brass plate, some kind of latch, hidden mechanisms, holding cells made to look like guest rooms. All of them were open now, all of them empty. It had all been a show, the warmth, the food, the polite words. They'd dressed the slaughterhouse in silk and handed him a spoon. They passed through a wide door at the end. Beyond it, a wooden walkway stretched out into the dark, connecting the building to the towers. Long and narrow, like a bridge across nothing. The towers loomed in the distance, their tops lost in the mist. The air was different out here. Wetter, earthier, thick with compost and damp wood, and something else, something metallic. He didn't have a word for it. He dug his heels in, but they kept dragging him forward, step by step. The towers grew taller with every pace. He could see more now. Cranes at the base lifting huge wooden pallets to different terraces, winches, gears, counterweights, operated by hand, not just hand, slaves. Big men, bare-chested, chained, shoved into place with spears, bound to wooden arms they turned by brute force. And there, Conrad. He was dragging a beam around in slow, endless circles, bound by wrists and ankles. A metal helmet covered his head, bolted tight with only a mouth hole. Wilhelm stopped breathing, his stomach twisted, his legs gave out. A hot surge rushed up his throat and he vomited violently behind the gag. It choked him, leaking through the edges and running down his chin. The taste, the burn, the shame of it. It was too much. He couldn't stop shaking. His eyes watered. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. He stared, horrified, as Conrad, his friend, his shield, the hammer of their ruined company, was reduced to this. Conrad, after everything, after the fortress, the battle, his brother, the screaming and the blood, now reduced to this. Muscle and silence and ash in the wind. What would they do to him next? And where was Isolde? Wilhelm had wandered through hell to reach this place, lost everyone, starved, killed, begged. And for what? For this city of clean walls and rotting hearts. For a bed and a hot meal before the truth revealed itself. Had it all meant nothing? The castle he defended until there were no doors left to bolt. Berengar, his loyal dog and best friend, until the end. The fields of ash. Caspar's death in his arms. Beryl's slow fading. Was this what it bought them? A quicker death in a place that smiled while it swallowed you? What was the point of surviving the fire, if only to be tossed into the coals afterward? The guards didn't pause, not a glance, not a word, just the endless rhythm of boots on wood. They rounded the towers. The smell hit him like a wall. It crawled up his nose and down his throat. He coughed, gagged again. A pit opened before them. Dark and wide and shallow by design, it had been built above the poisoned ground, elevated, engineered, to keep the creeping death from seeping in and spoiling the process. Steam rose from it in lazy curls. Bodies, rotting, tangled, folded into the soil like roots, limbs bent the wrong way, skin sloughing off bones, mouths open in silent, permanent screams. The towers thrived on the dead. He was still staring when she arrived. The woman, the one who had welcomed them, still in her grey uniform, still wearing that polite smile like all this was routine. She held a scroll and stylus. "Name?" she asked. The guards ripped the gag from his mouth. His lips were slick with vomit and blood. She looked at him, saw his face, didn't blink. She paused, then began to write. Only then did Wilhelm see it. His name, etched into the scroll with calm, mechanical grace. You will be remembered. Your offering will keep thousands alive. He couldn't speak. They dragged him to the edge. The heat from the pit soaked into his clothes, flies buzzed in his ears, steam curled up his legs. Somewhere below, a swollen corpse split open with a wet pop. He shook his head, weakly, a dying gesture. The last denial of a man who no longer mattered. Please, he thought, not like this. Let it mean something. But no one was listening. Not here. He was stabbed and shoved, fell. He landed in the pit. The breath left him in a wet choke. His cheek pressed into something soft, warm, already decaying. A shovel clinked somewhere above. Earth spilled over his back. He blinked. Once, twice. A seed pressed beside his face. One of his, from Feldhof. whole, unbroken. Let it grow, he thought. And then nothing.